Hey guys, welcome back to another week where we are continuing to explore creativity influencing culture. I have another guest with me today. I know you're going to love them. Stay tuned.
Hi guys, if there's one thing that I would want to encourage Christian creatives seeking to influence culture to do is to wait on God's timing. Wait on God's timing. We currently live in a culture where the title influencer is actually something that can be achieved. I think the unfortunate thing about this is that the word influence or influencer is directly associated with the number of followers you could accumulate, as opposed to the magnitude of your impact. So we measure an influencer based on how many Instagram or Facebook or YouTube followers that they have, as opposed to the extent of the impact that they're really making on the culture that they're in and being able to contribute to real change and transformation. And because this is how influence is measured in our culture, we see so many Christian creatives taking the route of this premature self-promotion, seeking to build a followership, oftentimes at the expense of going through the process necessary to be able to make the type of impact that God is calling them to. And we see it all the time. We see people trading off the truths of the gospel. We see people trading off the depths of the spirit simply to be able to satisfy and appease a following, because in their minds that is what it means to have influence. And it happens so prematurely that unfortunately many people are never able to recover from that and never able to really be able to maximize the level of impact, maximize the level of change and transformation that they could really bring about to the culture that they're operating in. I think the defining factor is our ability as creatives to sit and to wait on God's timing. Because here's the truth of the matter. The real impact that we will be able to make is not dependent on what is in our hands. It's not rooted in how good we can sing, how good we can write, how creative we are in video editing. This is not the crux of the matter. It's not about what is in our hands, but about whose hands we are in. Because God could take anything and do significant work with it once we're willing to submit and obey His directives. But oftentimes, what is necessary is not for us just to identify the call of God on our lives, but also to wait on God's commissioning. When is God's perfect timing for us to actually begin to operate at the highest level in the calling that He has placed upon our lives? I think one of the standout examples in the Bible of this is Moses. It always amazed me how the very thing that led Moses into exile was the same thing that God used to lead Moses to bring the entire Exodus out of Egypt. It's amazing. We see in one instance in Moses' journey, he sees a Jewish man being unfeared by an Egyptian, and because of this presence of injustice, he gets angry. He's bothered by the fact that the Jews are experiencing such hardship under this Egyptian's hand, and he kills the Egyptian. As a result of that particular action, other people finding out, Moses finds out, he goes into exile. 40 years Moses is roaming in the desert until God shows up in a burning bush. When God shows up in the burning bush, anybody remember what God used to initiate this idea of sending Moses back to Egypt? God comes on, He says, I have seen the injustices of my people. I have heard their cries. In other words, the very same thing that Moses felt when he killed that one Egyptian was what God had now come to use to tell him, I want you to go back to Egypt, and not just know to kill one Egyptian, because if you measure how many people Moses actually killed after the burning bush, I don't even know if they have a number to measure it. To go back to Egypt on that same calling. The difference between Moses' action initially and the action that took place and the actions that took place after the burning bush is that Moses had now found himself in God's timing. And when Moses found himself in God's timing, the same call that Moses always felt, the same actions that Moses were always committed to, God was able to take him and to use him, not just to free one Jew, but to free an entire nation, and to lead them out of the grips of an enemy who had them under severe slavery, under severe oppression. The point that I'm making is that if we wait on God's timing, we will be able to do above and beyond all that we could ever think or even imagine. If we continue to function on our own time, in our own ways, to build a platform that defines influence in a way that God even opposes of, then our impact will always be limited. It will always be small. It will always be one Egyptian in comparison to the millions that Moses were able to free and liberate the Jewish people from. I hope this was a blessing to you.
So much nuggets there that we can take and that we can apply into our own lives as creatives, as we influence culture in this upcoming decade. Thank you so much for sharing. And guys, thank you so much for tuning in. God bless you. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.